Sweet Science Brothers coming to you live from NYC. What up, YouTube boxing fans? It's your boy Yav, and I'm coming to you with some breaking news. I read an article on BoxingScene.com. It was reported by Steve Kim. Shout out to Steve Kim, always coming with the newest scoops all the time, hottest news. The guy's a legend. Anyway, it's reported that Gennady Golovkin and his team have sent a substantial offer to Billy Joe Saunders for a unification fight. So I was reading through the article, and there doesn't seem to be any figures or numbers on what that substantial offer could be. But as thinking boxing fans, we can put our minds together and think about what that offer could be. And I think that Gennady Golovkin, in all honesty, I think he has about $5 million to play with for himself and his opponent. I believe that's the kind of money that's on the table for that fight. I mean, this is just an assumption by me, and I think that Gennady Golovkin, I think he could offer an opponent up to $3 million. I do believe that that's possible, and he could just take one for himself in a situation like this. Or, I mean, it's just a guess. From 3 to 4 million, I think Gennady Golovkin can actually come up with that kind of scratch. If he's willing to take a big pay cut and give his opponent 70% of the money, 75% of the money, I think Gennady Golovkin's in a situation right now, I feel like he's willing to do anything to get the belts and do whatever it takes to get these guys in the ring with him. And I think that that's the right course of action. I just see him in a bad state. And, making an offer like that to Billy Joe Saunders is a good move. I think he should do something like that because he needs to do whatever it takes to unify this division. I know that he wants to, and I'm sure that that's the case. So when I read the article, Steve Kim's talking about this substantial offer, but there's no details as to how much that offer was. But at the same time, I wanted to do some investigating, and I saw that, Tom Loeffler posted a link on Twitter of an article that's coming from Box Nation. And then I clicked on that article, and it was actually in Frank Warren's website. Frank Warren, if you guys don't know, is the promoter of Billy Joe Saunders. So he has like his own website / blog, and he actually himself said, that a substantial offer was made, big money. He didn't specify how much, but he said it was a substantial offer. And he said, I was reading it, and Frank Warren literally said, I know Billy Joe Saunders said that he wasn't interested in Gennady Golovkin right now, but money talks, so I'm going to have to sit down and talk with him. So that was really intriguing. Like, his promoters basically like, oh, this offer, he kind of put it out there. The way I read it was like, oh, this offer was just too big for Billy Joe to just refuse. And when your promoter's saying that, I don't know, man. It could be difficult to get out of a fight like that. And at the end of the day, we can only guess what the offer is. I hope that it comes out, and we find out the actual number. But I do believe they offered him about, at minimum 2.5 mil. But I mean, when they say substantial, in my mind, I'm thinking they offered him like 3.5 to 4 million. I could see that kind of an offer because I think that Gennady Golovkin, like I said before, I think he has up to $5 million to play with. I believe that. I mean, where do I get that number? Well, he made like 2.5 fighting Lemieux, and Lemieux made 1.5, so that was like $4 million right there. And there were some pay-per-view buys, and I heard that the pay-per-view paid for itself. Now, I think he could do better than 150,000 buys, and I think HBO is willing to invest a little more for this unification. So like I said, I think Gennady has up to $5 million to play with for himself and his opponents, and for like the event in general. So I do think Gennady Golovkin has the ability to offer his opponents $3 million, up to even $4 million, and just take $1 million for himself. Now that sucks for him to have to pay an opponent that much money to get paid more than himself. But at the same time, Gennady Golovkin's got to do what he's got to do, because the thing is, if he can lock down all those belts, right? all he has to do, let's say theoretically Gennady Golovkin gets this guy, Billy Joe Saunders in the ring with him, offers him a substantial sum, the guy accepts it, Gennady Golovkin takes him, and next thing we know, I think Gennady Golovkin will destroy Billy Joe Saunders, worse than Lemieux, or on the same level. He'll give him like a consistent, just box him for about 5 to 6 rounds with a solid jab, tremendous body shots, and just break him down and finish him off sometime in the second half of the fight. And so, yeah, offering him a lot of money, it sucks. You got to take a pay cut, but at the same time, if you can take that WBO belt off of him, and then you got the WBC title lined up for September, whether Canelo fights him or doesn't fight him, he's getting that belt. And even if he doesn't, let's say the WBC pulls another move, which I don't think so. I think this was the last move that they pulled on him. But let's say they do another move. He'll still have every single belt except the WBC. So he could be rich off of fighting his mandatories. And you know what? They're not going to be big, spectacular pay-per-view extravaganzas or anything like that. But he'll be making $2 million a fight, beating the hell out of whoever's next. Whoever's next on the list from the WBO, then the next one on the IBF, IBO, WBA, IBF. You know what I'm saying? He'll have a steady flood of guys to just beat the hell out of, and he'll be making $2 million, $2.5 million. The big drama show could go on tour, just slapping people around from one state to another. He could just go on a tour, man, laying people out like an express train. And that WBC title, like I said, it's coming. It's on the menu. Like I feel like that belt is locked down for him at some point. He just has to wait a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see as for the WBC. But if Saunders accepts, and you know what? Like I said before, when I went to Frank Warren's page and saw that, oh my God, like this guy actually, his own promoter is like, this was a substantial sum. When your own promoter is like, I know my fighter has said he's not interested in fighting this guy, but money talks, and I got to sit down and talk with him about this, that's serious. I mean, I think that, this fight might happen. And if it does happen, it will go against everything that I thought would happen. But, I'm really curious, and I'm sure you guys are going to be really curious. I'm curious about this substantial sum because, it's got to be a lot. Because I know this guy, Billy Joe Saunders, he made a ridiculous statement. I don't know if you guys can remember. But Billy Joe Saunders said, I won't fight Gennady Golovkin unless they pay me £4 million. Not dollars, pounds. So that's like I think that's like $6.5 million right there. I don't know. I didn't do the math, but I think it's like 6 million or more. And that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? That's outrageous. No one's paying you that much. But I'm thinking, that offer must have been crazy. Like, to get these guys all of a sudden to be like, yo, we're taking this fight? Like, your promoter is saying money talks and I'm going to have to sit down with him? I'm happy about this news. I'm very happy because I thought Billy Joe Saunders winning guaranteed that Gennady wasn't getting a crack at that belt. But, I don't know. If they did offer this guy a lot, I think that's a great move. I hope that this is the case. I'm really curious, how much is this substantial offer? If any of you guys come up with that information, please let me know. But like I said, I read an article by Steve Kim on boxingscene.com, and then another article on boxnationtv.com, and then I went to Twitter and I saw like Tom Loeffler tweeting something that Frank Warren said on his personal webpage, and I didn't even check. I didn't get a chance to check yet, but some people posted something that Billy Joe Saunders said, like, if the money is right, let's make it happen. So, this is really good news. I'm happy to hear that. That's great, because I was really upset about this whole situation, but it turns out that, the money is there. We could get to see these fights. Now, I want to close off with one more interesting development. I'm going to post a picture for you guys to see. It's a very interesting picture. Apparently, Mauricio Suleiman, the president of the WBC, had a birthday bash. his birthday came up and he celebrated in Cancun, and they posted a picture on Twitter, and I saw this picture, and it's really interesting, and it's something we need to speculate on. But basically, he's got a birthday bash, and I'm looking at the picture, and who's in the picture here? We got Tom Loeffler, Gennady Golovkin, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys, but Mauricio Suleiman. Who do I see? Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. I think I saw Abel Sanchez there, but I'm not sure. But my point is that Gennady Golovkin is like making connections with the WBC, okay? He's making connections. He's at this guy's like birthday party. Canelo's not there. Oscar's not there. But you know who's there? Gennady Golovkin and Tom Loeffler are there. And I saw Chavez Jr. and I really like this picture because it makes me think like, these guys are all casual, enjoying a party. You don't think Mauricio Suleiman and these guys are sitting down and they're talking and they're telling Gennady Golovkin, listen, if I help you clean out the middleweight division, and you go ahead and we get this fight together, you willing to fight my man Chavez Jr. at 168? Or a catchweight maybe at 170 something? I think they're trying to set that up from that picture. Because let's face the facts here. Chavez Jr. Julio Cesar Chavez is the national brand of Mexico. He's the national hero. And he's a living legend. Julio Cesar Chavez is a living legend. And his son, was built up slowly for a long time. And they built this guy up and they gave him a lot of wins. And, he had a decent resume. And he wasn't really bad at 160. It's just that he couldn't make that weight because he had such a massive size advantage. And it's like, they even stripped Sergio Martinez of his middleweight title. And they played him and they gave that belt to Chavez Jr. So the WBC really loves Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I mean, like on a personal level, I think everyone in Mexico really loves him, and the fact that Al Heyman messed him up and made him, gassed his head up and made him think that he was better than he was, and put him, at light heavy where he really didn't belong, and then he got his ass knocked out by Fanfara, and I think they're trying to build Chavez back up again, and they're thinking about 168. They're trying to put him back on the map, and you know what? 168 is a little too heavy for him. I think he should try to go vegan and go to 160. But if Chavez were to be able to go back to 160, and it's highly unlikely that he would, but, he could have been good at 160 if he was just able to make that weight. Regardless, I just feel like they're trying to set up a big fight in the future with Gennady Golovkin and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I mean, I'm just speculating, but when I see a picture like this, and you see, Suleiman, and then you see Chavez Jr. and his dad, and Golovkin, and it's kind of like a little private birthday party get-together over here, and it makes you think, like, the Gennady Golovkin and his team, they're trying to make connections, and Gennady's been wanting that Julio Cesar Chavez fight for the longest time. Bob Arum was trying to make that fight. If I can remember correctly, I think Bob Arum was saying that he was offering Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. like $6 or $7 million to fight Gennady Golovkin. And he turned that down. Like, he left him for Al Heyman. Listen to how stupid Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is. He leaves Bob Arum when Bob Arum was offering him $6 million to fight Gennady Golovkin. Because he got gassed up and he thought Al Heyman would take him to the promised land. Then he switches over, signs with Al Heyman, and he gets paid like $1.2 million, I think, to fight some scrub, or 1 point something million. And he posts a picture of his check on Twitter. By the way, that picture right there is one of the main pieces of evidence in Golden Boy's case against Al Heyman. But going back, so he posts a picture of his check and he's all happy because he got 1 point something million dollars to fight a bum. And then he goes and he gets another 1.4 million to fight Fanfara, but he gets his ass knocked out, So you left Bob Arum, all right, and to have two, and then you made less in 2 fights. You made under $3 million for 2 fights, one of which you got your ass knocked out in with Al Heyman. So that just goes to show the grass ain't always greener. But That's all I have to say for now. This is your boy Al from Sweet Science Brothers coming to you live. Like, comment, and subscribe.